we had a lockdown of Lagos, Ogun and FCT for 5 weeks in order to slow down the epidemic and enable us to prepare well. The gains of this lockdown could be destroyed if people continue to violate the guidelines that we have set out.
Everyone is out on the streets after the ease on the lockdown. It is the survival of the fittest at the bus stops. Rules and guidelines on social distancing and the wearing of masks are flagrantly flouted. While some wear the mask, the place of social distancing is negated as commercial bus drivers load their vehicles up to the brim, not paying attention to the current transport rules, especially in Lagos State, where only 3 passengers are permitted on a row.
Always remember that we are the closest in proximity to Lagos. Lagos is the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic in this country. It is not a matter to be taken lightly. As the number of positive cases rise in Lagos, we in Ogun State must be concerned about the possible spillover, particularly as our people continue to travel across state lines despite warnings and the ban on interstate travel. You, the entire people of this state, have not elected me to make easy decisions, and tough decisions we have to make. Now, to preserve the lives of our people, we are persuaded to extend the current modified lockdown, which has been slightly eased anyway, for at least another week, alongside the current guidelines. These we will continue to review on a week-by-week basis. To remind you, our windows of relaxation will continue to be available on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. The daily curfew and ban on non-essential interstate travel, as directed by Mr. President, still stands. The curfew starts at 8 p.m. Wearing a face mask is mandatory.
With the interstate curfew in place, security checks are mounted to enforce the safety guidelines.
Immediately it was 8 o'clock. So we roll out our enforcement units throughout the Lagos State, both intra and extra Lagos State. And because of it, we realized that so many people who are not supposed to be on the road were on the road. Because of the long time now, they don't seem not to understand what COVID is all about. So what we just did was that we block everywhere. Those who are not supposed to be out now, we make sure that they remain there till 6 a.m. this morning. But those who are exempted, as we've been verified now, so by Ogun State CP now, so we are created a corridor for them, allow them to move. Those who were arrested for violating the curfew, and we arrested 58 for those who refused, who failed to put on the mask, and about 79 vehicles were impounded. Because you have what the presidential directive say until further notice. So we continue every day. But to know that by the time we do this one now, for a week fully, so many people will be aware that it's not a joke, and voluntarily they'll be complying. Because that's what happened now when we started the lockdown. We started doing a persuasive enforcement, and that's what we are still going to intensify on. Because the issue of the virus is a personal one. It's the hygiene, it's the health. But if somebody has contacted it, and it's not even something that can be seen with naked eyes. So that's why the government is emphasizing that we should be preventive, we should be proactive in making sure that it does not spread. This virus is real. This virus does not discriminate between an elderly person, a younger person, so between a male and female, so between a rich and poor. So once we have this one behind our mind, and nobody wants to fall sick, then we need to prevent it. And by preventing it, let's just follow the full steps, what the government have said. Constant washing of hands with soap, so maintaining social distance so that it doesn't spread, and equally sanitizing our hands. So anything can you just cover the nose, because it's the nearness that spreads it. If somebody is here and 6 meters away, it can't be spread. But the nearness, when somebody sneezes, when somebody coughs now, you spread it. I want to curtail the spread. so that the government and the economy of the country will come back to normal as it was before coronavirus.
It is a nightmare for motorists and commuters on the famous Long Bridge on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, connecting Lagos to other states of the nation. Many are out to their various places of duties or businesses, but are trapped in this logjam.
I'm part of the essential people. You can see we are locked down in the old of Lagos-Ibadan Express Road. As an essential duty, we are forced to run 12 hours in order to meet up. Now, if I didn't go early now, I'm supposed to resume for 6. I have to be on duty, and if I don't be on duty in time, it can lead to a query or other things. And I try to use the alternative. You can rightly see they turn us back that we should go and pass through the express.
I would just say that the kind of ease of the lockdown that we have varies from one state to the other. You know, in Lagos State now you can move. It's only by 8 p.m. you cannot move. So that is why some people are out today and some are going to their offices. But the traffic you have on Long Bridge is mad. And that is the reason people are now looking for alternative of how to get out of it. If you enter that traffic, I assure you, for the next 4 hours you are going to be there. Nobody knows the cause, and it was just terrible. And that is why you have that kind of traffic that you have at the moment. And people that are coming from Oyo State, other states, especially those trucks that are carrying food and other things, I think should be allowed to enter Lagos, which is part of the easing of the lockdown. But for us to now say even alternative route that you have should be closed, I don't think it's reasonable. Because people will just be on the road unnecessarily for hours. And we are talking of social distancing. How can we get that? When people are many, they'll be agitated, they'll come down from their vehicles, and what we want to prevent, people begin to experience it. I was told that there was a little misunderstanding between the agencies here, the police, the civil defense officers, and they were not able to resolve that amicably. And what has happened between them, nobody knows. We don't know. I was not here when they had the fracas. But that should not now put Nigerians into suffering. They should allow people to use the alternative route if the main road is blocked. And that is done all over the world. If there is a major traffic on the main road, people have alternative to use. And that will ease the movement of people. So we will just appeal to them that they should come together, resolve this matter amicably, and provide that alternative route to essential duty workers, if not for everybody. And that will be better for everybody, and we enjoy the environment that we are. We're in lockdown, and we just pray that God will deliver us, and all this one will go.
It is even worse at night when the 8 a.m. curfew is effective. Motorists crossing over to Lagos or outside the state are trapped here.
Please, this easing of lockdown is not that everybody should come out yet. No. The presidential directive on who and who should be out is still there, is still in force. But we misunderstood it. Particularly in Lagos, they took it for granted that everybody should just go. There are companies that don't have business opening up. For example, I don't know what a car showroom is opening up for now. It's not among the essential services. I understand that people have been caged for 5 weeks. Yes, there's this eagerness to just go out and do one thing or the other. But I want to appeal that that misconception should be corrected. The moment the presidential directive came on the lockdown, we also did sort of slow down on our operational activities, concentrating on only the essential. Once the essential thing here, the issue of the loading capacity of vehicles because of the social distance principle. And so cases of overloading, yes, we did not joke with those ones. We picked them, we clamped down on them, we issued citation where necessary. But we were more or less doing an advocacy. That was what we were doing, cautioning people, warning people, and educating people on why they should conform with the new directive. If you are coming from Lagos and you don't have business going to Ogun, we will take you back. If you are coming from Ogun end and you don't have business going into Lagos, we turn you back, and you can see the range of the angle of turning we have here, which is very convenient for it. It's part of the traffic management.
Operatives of the Ogun State Traffic Compliance and Enforcement Agency declares it has intercepted a truck loaded with about 30 almajiri at Joju area of Ado-Duota local government area of the state. The truck with Kano's registration number was said to have been covered with tarpaulin, disguising as a food truck. The truck was said to have been turned back at the border region between Ogun State and Lagos State. It is a high level of human and vehicular traffic at the bridgehead border axis of Onitsha, Anambra State. A cause for worry for the state as the bridge connects other eastern states from Onitsha.
It's a bloody waste of time, money, and everything. We want traffic anywhere. I listen to me. Lock that place, lock it, and don't check the people coming in.
The visibly angry Governor Willie Obiano pays a surprise visit, calls for stricter enforcement of the interstate travel.
It is not only curfew that we are enforcing. Are you hearing me? Yes, sir. We have a complete lockdown. That means the whole day and night. Are you hearing me? Yes, sir. The only vehicles that pass here are essential vehicles carrying essential items. You know that? Yes, sir. And the only people that will be cleared here are people that are medicals, people that will help people. Yes, sir. Other than that, nobody will come there. Everybody is staying in their own state. For now, that's the directive.
The State's Commissioner of Police and his team arrives to try to decongest the area. It is a difficult task.
We are here to synergize, collaborate to ensure free flow of essential items and vehicles plying this road and to see how we can control the human traffic. Because between the Delta State and Anambra State, the federal government has directed that nobody should do cross-border movement. But you can see because of the Onitsha market, you saw the crowd we met here. If we didn't use the wisdom we did now, somebody will fall in the River Niger and the attention will shift to somewhere. So that's why we are basically here to ensure that there's free flow of traffic and to synergize on better plans for the next day and thereafter. We should learn to obey orders in Nigeria. The presidency has directed that no cross-border movement, but you can see the flouting. And the stampede is such that if we don't use adequate discretion, people will drop in River Niger. So we want the press to appeal to Nigerians to obey for this short period, pending when federal government will review the protocol.
Considering the rate at which people are coming and going in between Delta and Anambra State, like my colleague has told you, if adequate discretion and care is not taken, by now we'll be counting on the number of people that fell down into the River Niger. So we are here to ensure that this issue of interstate movement is being curtailed. Only those that are supposed to move in and out of the states in accordance with the directives of the presidency and the two state governors will be allowed.
As at May 14, Anambra State has 2 confirmed cases of COVID-19, but it shares boundaries with 6 states including Enugu, Imo, Delta, Abia, Kogi, Rivers, and some of them with very active cases. The World Health Organization declares that the world has a long way to go to bring the coronavirus pandemic under control, despite tentative steps in many countries to begin restarting their economies.
Countries, as you've seen, are trying to find a path out and a path towards a new normal, as many people have put it. And we're going to be on that pathway for a long, long time. And as we've seen in some countries, even a small recurrence of disease can cause the need for a serious response in terms of the public health response. So I think we're going to have to remain on alert, stay the course, and ensure that we're ready to respond. If you reopen in the presence of a high degree of virus transmission, then that transmission may accelerate. If that virus transmission accelerates and you don't have the systems to detect it, it will be days or weeks before you know something's gone wrong. And by the time that happens, you're back into a situation where your only response is another lockdown. And I think this is what we all fear, is a vicious cycle of public health disaster followed by economic disaster, followed by public health disaster, followed by economic disaster. This virus may become just another endemic virus in our communities, and this virus may never go away. HIV has not gone away, but we've come to terms with the virus, and we have found the therapies and we've found the prevention methods, and people don't feel as scared as they did before, and we're offering life to people with HIV, long, healthy lives to people with HIV.
Of course, many countries would like to get out of the, the different measures that are being taken by many countries, and that is rightly so. But our recommendation is still the alert at any country should be at the highest level possible. And whatever measures we take should be a very phased one that reflects the country's situation.
Governments around the world are struggling with how to reopen their economies while still containing COVID-19. But for the WHO Director General at another online news briefing, the lifting of restrictions remain complex and difficult.
To protect lives and livelihoods, a slow, steady lifting of lockdowns is key to both stimulating economies while also keeping a vigilant eye on the virus so that control measures can be quickly implemented if an upswing in cases is identified. Over the weekend, we saw signs of the challenges that may lie ahead. In the Republic of Korea, bars and clubs were shut as a confirmed case led to many contacts being traced. In Wuhan, China, the first cluster of cases since their lockdown was lifted was identified. Germany has also reported an increase in cases since an easing of restrictions. Fortunately, all three countries have systems in place to detect and respond to a resurgence in cases. Workplaces should develop action plans for prevention and mitigation of COVID-19 as part of their overall business plan. The plan should also include measures for protecting health, safety, and security in reopening, closing, and modifying workplaces.
While the lifting of restrictions in Nigeria is gradual, concerns are on the treatment meted out on those on essential duties who also face the curfew put in place. The Nigerian Medical Association warned security operatives to respect the exemptions given to essential workers while the curfew lasts.
I must use medium to appeal to the federal government, to the Inspector General of Police, to the Minister of FCT, to the Commissioner of Police FCT, and to all the other paramilitaries and militaries in FCT, because there is incessant harassment of healthcare workers in FCT, even when they show their ID card. It is not acceptable. The healthcare workers are currently the soldiers against this war of COVID-19. And so they should actually be encouraged rather than being harassed. We have had several cases. There is one of the cases that the tires of a doctor who had already shown an evidence that he was coming to work in FSC Jabi was deflated. I mean, that is terrible. There's also another case where a doctor was driving from UATH Gwagwalada down to Zuba, and met these military personnel, showed them his ID card that he's on night shift, he's coming back, and they told him to sit on the floor and threatened him that they will shoot him. I mean, this is quite discouraging. These cases have been discussed with the Commissioner of Police and the Director of Security in FCT, and they're doing their best, but I think it's not good enough. They have to do more. And we have written to them, telling them that if they don't protect the healthcare workers, we have no choice but probably to sit down at home and let the system run by itself.
2020.
The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 re-emphasizes the need to reduce the heavy presence of persons on the roads.
We will continue our assessment of the level of compliance with the guidelines and the impact on slowing down the spread of COVID-19. In due course, we shall make further recommendations before the second phase commences. I must, however, state that our initial evaluation points firmly in the direction of high level of non-compliance, which, as we have often warned, portend grave self-inflicted danger. This fact has made it imperative for me to re-echo our call for taking personal responsibility. You must abide with the guidelines, wash your hands as frequently as necessary, use hand sanitizers, maintain social or physical distancing, use a face mask or covering in public places, etc. In addition, you must comply with the ban on interstate travels, avoid crowded places, observe the curfew, and do all you can to stay home and stay safe. You will recall that when the new measures were rolled out and published, we ensured that certain economic activities pertaining to food production and distribution were exempted. This, for the avoidance of doubt, includes farming activities. We recognize the fact that we are in the planting season and the nation cannot afford to prevent our hardworking farmers from going to their farms. We therefore use this medium to re-emphasize that farmers fall within the list of exemptions and urge state governors, local government authorities, and security agencies to please allow them to carry out their activities.
The downside of easing the restrictions in the country needs to be balanced off by all citizens with a collective determination by all of us, not only to comply with protective and prophylactic advisories, but to encourage relatives, friends, neighbors, and customers to do the same. The use of facial covers like masks in places where social distancing may be difficult or impractical should be supported by all of us and emphasized through donation of masks to the population as an act of goodwill. We must realize that the wearing of masks is not an alternative but a supportive initiative, and it is the least that we can do to protect ourselves and our opponents.